how are these counterfeits affecting ourselves, but also the environment in which we live in. When, of course, we talk about biodiversity, we are part of the biodiversity in the environment, but sometimes we exclude ourselves from the environment in which we live. But we are also part of the biodiversity which God created with love and care. So, Jonathan, I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, and then from there we can be able to go ahead with our discussions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isaac, for inviting me to this discussion and for this podcast. We are really humbled. I'm Jonathan Lubega. I work with SEATINI. And SEATINI is the Southern and Eastern Africa Trade Information and Negotiations Institute. We work mainly on issues of trade, tax, and investments, and other development-related issues and practices. And when we talk about this, SEATINI was formed after the WTO, and it realized the way Africans or even negotiators do not comprehensively put to the fore issues of trade and tax. No wonder we see Africa being marginalized in the policies and the legal documents that are developed from the global perspective. And when something is developed at the global perspective, it has to directly impact even at the local level. And herein, we engage on those processes when we go for the WTO discussions, when we go to the COP discussions, when we go to the African level, where discussions on the CADAP, the Comprehensive Agriculture Development Program, and also when we go to the regional, what is in there for the small-scale farmers at the East African level. And we demystify these issues that perhaps could be difficult for everyone to know. And all this, we do them from engagements at the local level, where we engage the small-scale farmers, the medium, small enterprises that are emerging. And these are the core of our populace that we engage, because they give us the actual realities on the ground, which easily facilitates SEATINI's discussion at all levels. So having this opportunity still, discussing issues on the impact of agrochemicals, we are really into the engagements that SEATINI is so much interested in. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Jonathan, for that very comprehensive introduction of what you do at SEATINI, but also, you know, the focus program areas and the different levels under which you work, the global level, the continental, regional, and the country level, including the local levels.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. I like this idea of collecting evidence from the ground to inform decision-making at different levels. And of course, when we talk about the local level, there's a lot of things, there are so many things which happen at that level. And which inform policy, decision-making, and many other decisions or planning processes. For today, we are very much interested on how SEATINI has worked with other partners, organizations, to be able to influence and participate in the debate and discussions around agriculture. And I know that you've mentioned about the World Trade Organization trade negotiations, which you are very much a part of, but also the other frameworks under which you follow under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the climate change negotiations, you are also there. And under the African Union, where you also follow issue to do with agriculture and many others. So, but today, as I mentioned, our topic is to really want to focus on the impact of these counterfeit agrochemicals on our health and on our biodiversity or nature in general. And what do you take on that topic or those issues?
Yeah, interestingly, when you look at Uganda's nature or agriculture nature, we are predominantly by default, in fact, if I'm to speak, we are by default organic. It means that there is a lot of relying on the organic production, less use of imports, the synthetic chemicals, the reliance on rain-fed agriculture. That is what the books really speak to. And that's actually, it is also more elaborated under the National Organic Agriculture Policy of 2019, which is showing how we are predominantly organic. But still, statistics are coming up to show that we are increasingly adopting the input kind of agriculture practice. And with that, we see one of the key elements that feature in that increase in the input is the use of pesticides, the use of agrochemicals, the use of fertilizers that are really dangerous and hazardous to the soils, to the health, and also to the general environment. And it's really timely for us to discuss that beyond us saying Uganda also is the backbone of the Africa's food, and but it is really evident when you travel to countries like Kenya, countries like Tanzania, and also other countries that are neighboring us. You really come to a conclusion that Uganda is gifted. It is gifted with food, and not only one type of food or two, but a diverse kind of food. You find Uganda in the western region, they're doing lots of different varieties of food. The eastern is doing different varieties, and the collecting all those varieties gives Uganda a very great potential, not only food security, but also trade, power. So if we do not speak to these issues of that will change this thinking or these situations of Uganda being a food basket, then we will be doing injustice to the country for the now and also for the future generations. So the topic of agrochemicals, it's really lively. And when you explore this, you see statistics have been coming up that showing how Uganda's is full of counterfeit, beyond having the actual products that of pesticides and all that. We have a lot of counterfeits, about 40%, I think last year, where the reports came out having about 40% of the counterfeit pesticide. That's a question of fact. And it's also a question that requires deeper interrogation. We realized that the government, under the Ministry of Agriculture, it is also doing a follow-up, tracing these issues to the core. But they will need us to dig deeper, understand the issues as the government as well as the community, to see ourselves thriving in this dwindling space of how these discussions of food security and food sovereignty in that general context.
Okay, I think that's very interesting. That of course, statistics shows that Uganda, we are by default, if I can quote you, by default we are an organic producing country in terms of agriculture, but we are running the risk of transiting to non-organic, and therefore, as much as we celebrate the achievements on one hand, on the other hand, we also need to worry a lot about what is happening.
Yeah.
And besides that, you have also talked about the issue of rain-fed agriculture, being organic. The biggest challenge which I see is that with the current climate crisis, which you are aware of, and which you are definitely experiencing, me and you and others, there is the fact that part of the impacts of climate change is that we are going to be having, or we're already having, prolonged droughts in some cases, or in some scenarios we shall be having very erratic rainfalls. and sometimes they might even cause heavy downpours, which may lead to causing of floods. As a country and as organizations that are working in this field, what do you see in the future? Because one, we can't keep on relying on that. So we must adopt with the technology as comes. And so are also the agro-chemicals. I know how difficult it can be, but how do we balance the two?
It's really, that's a question where we are. We in Africa, or even Uganda, if I'm to be specific, there are lots of narratives, that come in, that for you to solve food security, you have to use pesticides, you have to use chemicals, you have to put a lot of things. Yes. But there is also, we need to also think and see what really goes wrong if we capture narratives. Are we going to be consumers of narratives? And who is giving us the narratives? Yes. The producers, the companies that profit here from these narratives. When you look at the global perspective, companies that, about 4 companies own about 60% of the seeds. And if I come to you and I want to sell my seeds, I will tell you that because we are having these challenges, get these seeds for you to secure your food for the present and the future. Get these seeds. And those seeds are escorted by lots of things.
Lots of words and packages,
information. And you to plant that seed, you have to put it with a fertilizer. You have to, at a certain level, put pesticides. At a certain level, all sorts of levels. But then we need to have, as SEATINI we say, okay, we need to develop our own perspectives. What is the Afrocentric kind of perspective that we are looking at? What are the issues that are affecting Uganda? Is it biodiversity loss? Is it the erratic rainfall? What causes that? And statistics also indicate how climate change is, actually agriculture itself being one of the leading causes of climate change that we are talking about. So now the discussion is, what can we do to change the issues of climate change in the context of agriculture?